thank you for coming out on Saturday and actually choosing me, right? It's like, we're going to talk about negotiation. And it is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, primarily because, and I will make this admittance to you, I was a terrible negotiator. So it turns out that I actually got a lot better outcomes after I started writing books on negotiation. So maybe that's, it's like, here, just read my book. And they're like, okay, we give. But, a lot of us don't have time to write books. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about how to get more of what you want in negotiations. And I'm going to suggest that there are a couple of strategies that we can implement today in order to be able to help us be more effective negotiators. And the way I want to start is I just want to highlight the fact that for most of us, when we think about negotiations, we think about it as a battle. And when we contemplate the possibility of a negotiation, we are already putting on the battle armor. We're getting ready for a fight. And that fight has the characteristics of I'm going to try to get stuff from you don't want to give me. And I'm going to try to keep you from getting my stuff. Okay? And as soon as I walk into whatever situation that negotiation engages, my counterpart, seeing me all armored up, responds in kind, and we have a battle. Now, I'm not saying that there are never negotiations that reflect that kind of battle mentality, but they are much more rare until we create them. Because for the most part, we negotiate with people with whom we have or have the potential for an ongoing relationship. And when you put those two pieces together, what happens is most of us actually avoid negotiations because we don't want to pick a fight with people who we care about. And so what happens then is we end up negotiating only when it's really, really, really important. So we have non-routine but really big issues. And then we're really anxious about it. We get into the battle mentality. We get into a power struggle. And it pretty much is a downward spiral from there. What I want to suggest is that we need to broaden our definition to what is negotiation and to expand it beyond that notion of negotiation as battle. So think about negotiation as a process where two or more parties decide what each will give and hope to get in their interaction. And through a process of mutual influence and persuasion, this is so important, that little phrase right there, because what I want to convey to you is there is no command and control in negotiation. I can't force you to say yes. All I can do is present proposals to you where you believe it is in your interest to say yes. So that means you must either be kept whole or perhaps made better off. Otherwise, why would you say yes? And so as a result, if we take this broader definition of what is negotiation, we expand the possibilities. After all, this definition can encompass a wide range. A type of negotiation that is often viewed as structurally adversarial. I had to get into one of those not too long ago. I'm going to be doing a lot of confessing up here, so here's another confession. It turns out that I have an addiction, and my addiction is horses. And so I know, it's great. I had 5 of them, and then I got a new one. His name's Dylan. He's very cute. But having gotten Dylan meant that I had to get a new truck, because while I have a trailer that holds 6 horses, the truck we had couldn't pull a trailer with 6 horses. So I had to get a bigger truck. A dually. Anybody know what a dually is? Yeah, that's why I had to get a dually. It's really big, 3,500, So I'm negotiating the purchase price of my new truck. That is an adversarial negotiation because, truthfully, I don't really need the friendship of the truck dealer. We're not going to be friends. He's not coming over for dinner, right? But what it is I want to get a truck, the coolest, most, sort of fancy truck with all the bells and whistles for the least amount of money, and he wants to sell me a truck that is stripped down for the most amount of money. Right? And that's part of what this negotiation process is about. But yesterday, I had a meeting with my doctoral students on a research project, and that was a negotiation too. Because when I called that meeting, those students showed up because I have resources, both tangible and intangible, to which they wanted access. And I called them to the meeting because they had resources, tangible and intangible, to which I wanted access. And while the content of the meeting was about the research project, the context of the meeting was, which of my scarce resources am I going to contribute to this ongoing engagement? What do I hope to get? And they were doing exactly the same thing. Every team meeting that you're in is a negotiation, if you think about it that way. And so what I want to do is first I want you to expand your definition. And expanding your definition allows you to reframe the perspective of how you think about negotiation, moving from this notion of negotiation as battle to negotiation as collaborative problem solving. But before you start down a road that you're thinking, oh yeah, I've heard this before, she's one of those who's looking for that little win-win, little kumbaya, everybody get together and group hug. If you know me, you know that's not true, okay? When I talk about a collaborative problem-solving outcome, what I'm talking about is a solution that makes me better off than my alternatives, better off than my status quo, better off than had I not negotiated. Right? That seems pretty obvious. Why would you negotiate to be worse off? And yet every one of you, if you really face up to it, has taken a deal voluntarily, no guns to your head, that made you worse off. Right? We've all done that. But we're looking for a solution that makes you better off. But because there is no command and control in negotiation, I've got to really understand my counterpart, because I have got to be able to present proposals to him or her in a way that makes them believe that they are at least kept whole. Because they're not going to say yes, otherwise they won't walk on that path of agreement with me unless I can find that spot where I can make a proposal to them where they're at least made better, at least kept whole, or perhaps made better off, and I am made better off. So I can give you an example of this, because one of the things that happens is once you do this, once you focus on this problem-solving perspective, so many more things become negotiable. So let me give you my example. And this is absolutely a true story, and unfortunately this has been videotaped, so it's now going to become public. But so a couple of months ago, I was working on a research project. I was writing up a research project. And it's really easy to write up a research paper right up until you get to the part for me which is difficult, which is the discussion section. Because everything else is really kind of structured and formal, and then the discussion section is tell the readers why they should even be interested in what you just did. Right? And so I'm looking at this blank page with the word discussion at the top of it, and I'm getting nowhere. And so eventually I look around my office trying to find some insight, some muse. So I look at my email, because that's where all muses hide, in my office. And so I'm looking through my email, and I have an email that's set up so that I have the first 3 lines available so I can see it, so I can decide whether this is a read immediately, read later, delete now. Right? Those are kind of the 3 characteristics. And so I noticed that I'd gotten an email from my dean. And my deans write a lot of emails, and many of them are very important. Some not so. You know, like, we'd like to welcome so-and-so to the Graduate School of Delete, because I already know, you see, but when you get to be my age, you have read-only memory, right? I mean, there's nothing that gets saved anymore, right? So I'm not going to remember that person's name. I might as well not even finish, just delete. Okay, move on. But in this particular email, I noticed the word provost was in the email multiple times in the first 3 lines. And for those of you who don't remember the hierarchy of academia, the provost is the senior academic officer. He is the boss of us all, okay? And so, only to be, well, there's the board of trustees, and there's the president, and then the provost, and then the rest of us, right? It's like, and so, absolutely true story. The memo said, the provost has discovered that the amount of teaching course credit that faculty in the business school get for an hour of contact time with their students is different than the teaching course credit that the engineering faculty get for an hour of their contact time, which is different from the law school, which is again different from the medical school. We have 4 professional schools. We had 4 different metrics for assigning teaching course credit, right? He said, this is crazy. We will have 1 metric. Blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on, right? In summary, based upon the provost's new algorithm, you will be going from teaching 5 courses a year to 6. Best wishes, the dean. I didn't like that email. And not because I dislike teaching. I actually like teaching. I have a great deal of fun teaching, and I think it's actually a good way to spend my time. But even more than liking teaching, I am lazy. And I thought that 5 was enough. I thought 6 was excessive. And so I thought, well, here's from the provost to the dean to me, what choice do I have, right? Except I remembered a couple of things. And here are the things that kind of came to my mind. Number one, I was pretty sure the only reason the dean had said you're going to teach 6 is because of what the provost had said. The dean didn't have any horse in this particular race. He didn't really care. I'd been teaching 5 for a number of years. 6 was based upon this new algorithm. Okay? Second thing, I teach experiential courses. And for those of you who've ever taken experiential courses, one of the benefits of experiential courses is they are experiential, which means you can't always predict what's going to happen. And so I have an idea, I have a very clear lesson plan about what I need to accomplish in the 3 hours of my class. My classes typically go from like 3:30 in the afternoon to 6:30 in the afternoon. And you know, it's 5:45. I got 45 minutes left. I am on track. I'm going to actually get through this class and accomplish everything I need to accomplish, and I'll get them out by 6:30. That's great. And then somebody asks a question. And it's a good question. It's an important question, one we have to deal with. And so by the time I get back on track, it's now 6:40, 6:45, and at exactly 6:30.000, the students, God bless them, do the following. They look very pointedly, as a group, at their watches. They flip their hair back to look at the clock on the wall. It's over there if they'd be going this way, right, this way. And then they look at their watches again and look at me. At which point I say, yes, I know, we're late. But this is important. Now, because of that, I get punished in my teacher course evaluations. My students say to me, we wish Professor Neal would learn how to tell time. So, they're not happy. I don't like being punished in my teacher course evaluations. You know, it's like the Nielsen's. You want it to be really good. So I go to the dean. I say, I'd like to make an appointment. He said, what do you need? I said, I need your help. He said, okay, what about? So I said, I have a request. I would like to extend the amount of time that I have each class from 3 hours to 3.5. I want to go from 3:30 to 7. And he said, why? And I told him the story. And he said, that seems reasonable. I said, great, thank you. As I was walking out of his office, I stopped right before I left the door and turned around and said, so with that additional time each class, based upon the provost's new algorithm, I'm down to 5, right? And he said, yeah, sure. I said, thank you. We are done. The negotiation is over with. Now, here comes the critical thing, and I'm going to ask you to help me out on this. I told you that negotiation is about collaborative problem solving, right? So the question I would ask you is, whose problem did I solve? Oh, no, you got half of it. No, mine is, of course, mine. But I couldn't solve my problem. Who did I need to solve my problem? So whose problem must I have solved? The dean's. Okay, you guys should know the answer to this following. I have a lot of audiences are like, I don't know what you're talking about. What problem of the dean's did I solve? Huh? Oh, no. You guys don't understand academia. The provost was always going to be accommodated. All right, yeah, we were going to do that. No. No. You got, huh? No. Okay, you guys are not nearly as cynical as you need to be on this. What do deans want?
Happy teachers.
They don't care about happy teachers. What do they care about? But you got happy students. Why do deans care about happy students? Alumni. Because they become happy alumni who become happy donors. Now you have it. The dean wants happy students because that's the beginning of this very important path, right? And here's the cool thing. The students are happier with more content time. How cool is that? Huh? I basically solved the dean's problem by giving the students more academics, and I'm down to 5 classes. This is perfect. And by the way, I have a higher standard than most of you because most people, because I do research in negotiation and I teach negotiation, I write books in negotiation, most people think when I open my mouth, it's the beginning of a negotiation, right? So they're already armoring up whenever they're in the room. And I'm pretty sure my dean at that moment didn't think we were negotiating. We were solving a problem. And that's how I want it, because it would be crazy of me to walk into my dean's office and pick a fight with him. This is stupid. No wonder people don't want to negotiate. But if you transform your perspective on negotiation and include these day-to-day interactions, you have so much more opportunity for getting more of what it is you want. Now, one of the things that I think is really important for us to understand is that too often, one of the reasons that we end up with outcomes that make us worse off is because we really haven't done our homework to figure out what a good deal is. And we get confused about what the goal of the negotiation is. Too many of us think that the goal of a negotiation is to get to yes. The goal of a negotiation is agreement. I want to dissuade you of that notion. Sometimes the best deal you have available to you is your status quo or your alternatives. Because what you're looking for in that exchange, in that interaction, is a good deal. And this is critical. Do you know, as you walk into those situations, whether it's a team meeting or a negotiation on a contract, do you know what a good deal is? And do you know the point at which that good deal becomes bad? If you're going to be a good negotiator, if you're going to be a successful negotiator, you need to figure out exactly what a good deal is. And while there's a lot of nuance we can add on top of each of these, what I want to suggest is there's 3 major parameters that you absolutely need to have control of, understand before you walk into a negotiation. And the first one is, what happens to you if no agreement were reached? That is, do you know what your alternatives are? And the research in this area is very clear. Basically, he or she with the better alternative walks away with more. Why do they do that? Why does having a good alternative let you walk away with more? Go ahead. I love the hand raise, but go ahead. Leverage. What does that mean? Give me more. Give me like normal English. You have more room to negotiate? No, that's not what makes you powerful. You can afford to say no. If I have a really good set of alternatives, the better my alternatives, the easier it is for me to walk away. The better my alternatives, if you want to deal with me, the more you have to pay for me to stay, right? And you all know this from your dating life. It's like, right? Remember those times when you were like really popular and somebody would ask you out and you're like, where are we going and what are we going to do and why should I, right? But there were those times, kind of the desert period in your life, and somebody would ask you out and you go, sure, no problem, let's go. I'll pay. It's like, really, it's okay, right? It's the same thing with alternatives in negotiation. You have a really good alternative. It's like, well, tell me why I should say yes. So your alternatives are a huge assessment of how powerful you are in the negotiation. So when you think about your alternatives, what I want you to do, the analogy I want you to use, is a safety net. And this, I've thought really hard about this analogy, and I think it's really important for you to think about it as a safety net, because too many of us, when we negotiate, if we figure out what our alternatives are, what we do is we say, okay, this is my alternative. If I can just get above that alternative, I'm doing okay. Which means you have made your alternative your standard of acceptability. Think about yourself as if you were a trapeze artist. If you end up in the safety net, you're really glad it's there. But a good performance is not ending up in the safety net, right? You want to be able to actually do those tricks and not hit the safety net. And that's what I want you to think about. Because your alternatives are what protects you from the impasse, what happens there. But they should not necessarily even be associated with what you could possibly get. Now, your alternatives, really important for you to know. Your alternatives are outside the negotiation. So if you and I are negotiating, our alternatives are what exists outside of this interaction between you and me. The second thing that we need to think about is, what is my reservation price? What is my bottom line? What is that point of indifference between a yes and a no? What's that tipping point? So I need to know where that deal goes from being good to being bad. And it turns out that's a really easy thing to say, and so I need to sort of take that reservation price and use it as a bright line standard that I will not violate. So easy to say, so hard to do. Because for what we do in negotiations is we start getting into the negotiation, and then we say we have to get a deal because we see a yes as the standard of success. And we privilege getting a yes over the quality of the deal. So part of what you need to think about is you need to think about what is your reservation price. And what I think is so funny about this particular concept is we all talk about it in negotiations. I'm sure that every one of you multiple times has either had it ask of you or ask of your counterpart, so really, what's your bottom line? When you ask that question, and let's say they gave you an answer, did you believe them? No. Why didn't you believe? So you and I are negotiating, and you say to me, Maggie, what's your bottom line? And I say, 100. Do you believe me? Why not? Because if I told you my true bottom line and we get a deal, what am I going to get? Why would you give me anything else, right? So what you think I'm going to do is I'm going to give my faux bottom line, right? I'm going to have a little bit extra. But here's the problem. Some people haven't basically gotten the news, and they actually tell you the truth. So what happens when someone tells you their true bottom line? Impasse. This is a paradox of negotiation. I tell you my true bottom line. What if I turn out to be one of those rare human beings who is a truth teller? Now, unfortunately, us truth tellers, we don't have the big T on our forehead, so you can't tell us truth tellers from our evil twins, the liars, okay? So when you say, what's your bottom line, and I, as the truth teller, tell you my true bottom line, you think, she's got to be a liar. And so you keep pushing, and I can't go any further. And maybe you even make a concession to try to encourage me to reciprocate, and I don't move from that bottom line I told you. And now you think, what a jerk. She's not negotiating in good faith. She's too greedy. I'm not going to make this deal. And it turns out it's the person to whom truth has been told who walks away from that negotiation. This is a challenge. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if you come on. There's got to be ways you can figure out if somebody's telling you the truth. Yeah, they have to walk away. And even in ongoing relationships, the question is, do you really want to push people far enough to say you're going to walk away? Now I know you're a truth teller, right? Because we have an impasse, which of course makes it less likely we're going to negotiate again, right? It's just kind of a catch-22. All right, so what do? Well, here's one thing. You don't have to always answer every question that's asked of you. If your counterpart says to you, what's your bottom line? My most common response is to reframe the whole conversation. Why are we talking about the worst possible deal that one of us could get? Let's see what's up there that's possible that might make it good for both of us and not have to settle for the worst possible deal. But maybe let's try to do the third thing, which I think is so critical and so underappreciated in negotiation. Folks talk about their alternatives, they talk about their bottom lines, but if that's all you pay attention to, you will systematically underperform in your negotiations. And you will do so because of a very powerful psychological phenomenon, which can be described very simply Expectations drive behaviors. Your alternative is your safety net. Your reservation price is the worst possible deal. If that's where your head is, if that's what you're thinking about, that's where you'll end up. You have got to actually add a third parameter, an aspiration. What is an optimistic assessment of what you could achieve in this negotiation? And when we talk about that optimistic assessment, notice the words optimistic and assessment. I've actually thought hard about this negotiation. If it went really well, what could I possibly achieve? Right? And that's what I want to do, because I literally want to raise up my expectations about what's possible. I may not make it, but if I have those expectations, on average, I do better. So I want to leverage my expectations. And what I want to do in order to help you be more effective in negotiation is I'm going to talk about expectations more because I think it's really important, but I'm going to add two other secret ingredients for negotiation effectiveness. One is expectations, one is the power of justifications, and the third is the importance of packaging. So let's talk a little bit more about expectations, because it turns out that expectations have a huge impact on how we basically allow ourselves to accept or reject a deal. And we can sort of think about expectations. We can go back, way back, sort of in the dark ages, 1969. You may have heard of this guy, Robert Rosenthal, the Pygmalion effect, right? This was probably one of the first sort of compilations of studies that looked at the power of expectations. To remind you very quickly, he went to the 6th grade classes of the Boston public school system. And he went to the teachers and said, we have done extensive testing of your students over the course of the summer. He'd done nothing. What he'd really done was he took the class lists and he randomly assigned the 6th graders to one of two conditions, the blossom intellectual condition or the develop as normal 6th graders condition. And he said, based upon those tests, we have defined your students into two groups, the blossom intellectual condition who will blossom intellectually over the next year, it's our prediction, or those who will develop as normal 6th graders. He gave the teacher the lists, and then he left. At the end of the academic year, he got the standardized achievement test scores from the 6th graders in the Boston public school systems. And lo and behold, he predicted correctly. Those who were identified as going to blossom intellectually, in fact, scored significantly higher in their standardized achievement tests than did those who were going to simply develop as normal 6th graders. And this is the power of expectations. The teachers expected these students to behave differently. They demanded more of the students they thought were going to blossom intellectually, and those students rose to those expectations. We can do it with other things. If we move forward sort of from the 1960s to the 1990s, here at Stanford, Claude Steele and his co-authors discovered something that they termed stereotype threat. And what's stereotype threat? Well, it's the concern that a person feels when they're about to verify a negative stereotype about their group. And that creates a sense of anxiety and lowered expectations. In fact, what happens is they eventually support the very stereotype they're concerned about supporting. And there's been some wonderful studies. What was done, the original study that was done here, was done with athletes, undergraduates. And what they did is they got African American and white athletes, and they put them in two different groups, and they had them play golf. And what they said was to one group, both African American and white athletes, we're going to have you play a game of golf. Golf, as you know, how well you do in golf is a function of your sports intelligence. That's the stereotype for why white athletes do well, because they have high sports intelligence. They went to the other group, both African American and white athletes, and said, we're going to have you play a game of golf, and as you know, your scores in golf are a function of your natural sports ability, which is the stereotype of why black athletes do well. So in the first condition, when the game was characterized as descriptive of sports intelligence, the white athletes outperformed the black athletes. And when they were told it was natural sports ability, the black athletes outperformed the white athletes. Wow. Well, it turns out in negotiations we can do the same thing. So folks were asked, in this particular study, we had both males and females. So in a negotiation pair, one member was male, one member was female. There were two groups of them. You can sort of see the same kind of experiment was being done. In the first group, they said the following things. Now, you'll see two labels, the negative male stereotype and the negative female stereotype. The participants, the subjects in the experiments, never saw those labels, but they saw the descriptions. And what they were told was, negotiators who display the following behaviors. So in group one, both males and females, they were told that negotiators who display the following behaviors tend to perform worse. They have a high regard for their personal interest. They depend on assertive behaviors, they rely on rational analysis, and they don't have much in the way of emotional sharing. Those people do worse. And the other group got a different induction. What they were told was that negotiators who display the following behaviors tend to perform worse. They are passive or reactive in expressing their interests. They rely on their intuition. They depend on their listening skills, and they're willing to share their emotions. Those people do worse. And then both groups were asked to set their aspirations. What was an optimistic assessment of what you could achieve? And here's the results. When folks heard, let's see, do I have a little thing here? Anyway, can we see it? No. Okay, so look at it over here on the, well, this is yours. On your left side here, when they got the negative male information, the female negotiators had higher aspirations for their performance than their male counterparts did. But when they got the negative female information, the male negotiators had higher aspiration for their performance than their female counterparts did. But at this point, it's just aspirations, right? Nobody's negotiated. So let's look what happens in the negotiation. When they got the negative male information, the males outperformed their female counterparts in the negotiation. But when they got the negative male information, the females outperformed their male counterparts. Statistically, significantly, and pretty big difference, you can sort of see. Pretty amazing. Expectations drive behavior. Now, one of the things that's really difficult for me when I teach negotiations, I give this research out and everybody smiles and nods. And they go, yeah, expectations are powerful. And I say, yes, so that means in a negotiation what you should do is you should focus on your aspirations and not on your alternatives. And they go, yes. And then we do a negotiation. And they focus on their alternatives and ignore their aspirations. And so there's another study. Let me show you how powerful expectations are. Let me just quantify it. So in this study, I want you to first look at the kind of the dark blue, right? Not the turquoise, but the blue. What they did was, and these researchers did, is they had people focus either on their aspirations or on their alternatives before they went into the negotiation. Look at the royal blue bars. You can sort of see very clearly that those who focus on their aspirations got more than folks who focus on their alternatives. But look at the turquoise bar, because they ask another question. How satisfied were you with the results? The people who got less were happier. The people who got more, less satisfied. How can this be true? Negotiation, typically you want more, right? Yeah, no, I really want less because that makes me happier. What's happening here? Why are people more satisfied when objectively they get less? Because they exceed. So here's my alternative. I typically get above it. I'm feeling pretty good, right? Here's my aspiration. I don't make it. I don't feel so good. This should give you two strategic insights. Seriously. Number one, realize that as a general rule, you're terrible in assessing how well you do in a negotiation by how well you feel at the end of it. Right? This research says, yeah, it's probably like the inverse of that. So what that means is have the discipline to identify an aspiration and realize that as you focus on that aspiration, eventually when you get to a deal, you will be less satisfied with that deal. But you will be better off. Number two, this is the important one. Focus your counterparts on their alternatives. Because it's a natural way for them to go anyway. You just encourage them to focus, wow, I wonder what will happen if we don't reach a deal. I've just got you to think about what your alternatives are, right? If you focus on your alternatives and you make a deal, you're going to be really happy. You're going to be very satisfied with the negotiation, because I'm your counterpart. You're going to feel pretty good about negotiating with me again in the future. It's like a, I hate to use these words, but like a win-win-win. I get more and you're happier. This is what I'm looking for, okay? All right. Now, justifications. Oftentimes negotiators think that what they should do is they should be unpredictable and do crazy things, keep their counterparts off balance. To the extent that negotiators do that, you reinforce that notion of negotiation as battle. So one of the things that you really need to understand is the power of justifications to be able to help you get people to do what it is you'd like them to do. And let me demonstrate that and the power of justifications by first suggesting that at least the empirical research suggests that sometimes the presence of a justification is more important than what the justification actually says. And let me give you some important examples of that. But in a negotiation, I'm going to sort of make a caveat here. When people scrutinize your proposals, the more objective those proposals, the better, the more objective the justification. So let me give you an example about how powerful justifications are. So many of you don't work in these type of organizations anymore, but it used to be, and some of us still do, certainly in the business school we have the copy room. But luckily now it's kind of wireless, so we don't have to go stand in line anymore. We can just kind of send it in and eventually we go pick it up. But you remember back in the old days when you had to take all the stuff you wanted to copy and carry it into the copy room? Yeah. So Ellen Langer and her co-authors looked for organizations where they had this copy room. And she said to her research assistants, I want you to go into the copy room and I want you to wait until there's a line. And then, when there's a line, I want you to go up to the person who's about to step up to the copy machine and with one of three strategies, see if you can get them to let you step ahead of them in the line. Okay? Here's the first strategy. A simple request. May I use the copy machine? Okay? Second strategy. Request plus a reasonable justification. May I use the copy machine? I'm in a real rush. Third strategy. Request stupid justification. May I use the copy machine? I need to make copies. What percent of folks who are about to step up let that person cut in line when it was just, may I use the copy machine? 1%. 10, 0. I have a colleague by the name of Frank Flynn at the business school, and he does research in how extraordinarily large is our negative expectation of our human colleagues. We think people won't do us favors. It's amazing. You want to know what the real answer is? 60%. 60% of people with a simple request said yes. People, this is not just you guys, I mean, people way underestimate how willing people are to accommodate your requests. So one of the things that I actually tell people a lot is, you just need to ask, seriously. Because 60% of the time, they're probably going to say yes anyway. You don't even, that's not very skilled negotiating. That's just, can I have that? Sure, go ahead. Okay? All right. May I use the copy machine? I'm in a real rush. 90. That's pretty close. It turns out to be 92. Okay, good shit. Okay. May I use the copy machine? I need to make copies. 20%. 90%. 91%. And before you guys think these people are crazy, you have all stood in the TSA lines and some idiot has come up to you and said, may I cut in line? I need to make a flight. And you're thinking to yourself, yeah, because today's Saturday, I just stand in the TSA lines so I can be strip searched. I don't have to make a flight. Go right ahead. We're all here to make a flight. But what do? Most of us will step back. About 91% of us will step back and go ahead. Because we fill in the blank, right? We listen for the because, right? And so what we need to think about, though, is with negotiations, people are going to be actually very carefully scrutinizing your proposal so that the because I need to make copies. Like I can't walk up to you and say, I'd like to pay less for this. Why? Well, I'm the buyer. Paying less is better than paying more. You're not going to go, oh, well, now that I know that, let me just give it to you, right? So you need to be more, and the more objective your justification, the better, right? So you want to talk about all the things that make it difficult for you to pay more, whether it is the marketplace or constraints or the quality of the product or whatever. You want to look for a justification. Because here's the other thing that justifications do, which I think are really important, right? They mitigate a counterpart's resistance when you start doing stuff that's unpredictable. Because now you're explaining why you're doing what you're doing. So it makes them less, because when people negotiate, they think of the world as very zero-sum and very adversarial. And so when you start doing stuff that's unpredictable, I'm suspicious, I'm distrustful, I'm looking for a reason. But if you can explain it to me, it mitigates that response of competitor, zero-sum, negative, right? And what happens too is, and this is really important, if I justify a proposal, as I justify that proposal, you listen to my justification. It encourages and influences and enhances the anchoring of that proposal, that perspective, that point in your mind. And so this is another very important point. It increases the anchoring effect of an offer. So I'm going to use justifications. I'm going to tell people why I'm doing stuff. What's the basis for my thinking? Why is it that I think this is the right way to go? And I'm going to be as objective as I can in that explanation. All right. Packages, number 3. You know, a lot of people know about the importance of expectations. We talk about goal setting all the time. Justifications, we often tell people to explain themselves. One of the things that I think is one of the most difficult things for me to convey to folks in negotiation is the power of packaging. Because it seems so counterintuitive. What we focus on so often is we should negotiate issue by issue. Right? Let's take these issues one at a time. And what happens when we take these issues one at a time, a couple of bad things occur. Now granted, there is that perspective that might be true, that one at a time might seem easier because we're just dealing with one thing at a time and that's simpler. But it turns out in the whole picture of negotiation, it makes everything worse. Why does issue by issue so bad? Well, number one is it focuses us on, did I win the last one or am I going to win this one? You're now in a battle mentality again. Issue by issue is much more associated with battle thinking than it is with problem solving. Number 2, while it's perceived as easier, what happens is it destroys value in a negotiation. Let's say that we're going to be negotiating over multiple issues. There are some issues I care more about, some issues I care less about. You might have even heard of a strategy that reflects those differences in perspective. Let's solve those easy issues first. In fact, I used to do, when I was much, much, much younger and working basically in my dissertation period of time, which was much, 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 much younger, I did work with labor unions. And one of the strategies that labor unions trained their labor negotiators was to solve the easy issues first. It seems like a reasonable strategy because if you solve a few issues, it becomes harder to walk away. You're kind of binding yourself to the agreement. You're making more likely that it will occur. So that's the best possible thing you can say about solve the easy issues first. Here are the other offsetting comments. Number 1, you solve all the easy issues and what is left? The really ugly 800-pound gorilla. And now that's the only issue left. And so you've got to fight. And you will battle. And you will end on a battle. Or you'll end on an impasse. Right? Either way, it's not good. but more nuanced. Solve the easy issues first assumes that your easy issues are my easy issues. What if they're not? What if things that are really important to me are not that critical to you, and things that are really critical to you are not that important to me? Part of what my planning and preparation is going to do is I'm going to spend time trying to suss out what's important to you and what's important to me, and hopefully what I'm looking for are when there's asymmetries in that, where I can find something that is really important to you that's not very costly for me to give. And truthfully, even in that negotiation with the truck dealer, right, the adversarial negotiation where I want to pay less and he wants me to pay more, I was looking for issues that were important to him that were easy for me, and things that were easy for him that were important to me. And I found a few. You want it to work? Because it could help in your next negotiation with a truck dealer. They're surveys. At the end of your interaction, in this case it was GMC, sent a survey to me about the truck dealer. And he's going, it's really important you give me all 6s. I go, I'm not happy right now, but I could be. And what's really important to me? Service after the sale. How much? For whom is service more expensive? Him or me? Me. For him, he's like, yeah, I got the service center. It's like, that's important. Let's make that trade. Right? I'm looking for trades too, even when my most highly valued outcome is I want a low price. But it made it a lot easier for him to give me stuff I wanted because I was able to give him stuff he wanted. Right? But I had to figure out what those were. All right. Now, one of the challenges that you're going to face is as you negotiate, and the better you get at negotiating, what you're going to find yourself doing is helping your counterparts be better negotiators, because they're going to do silly things like try to go issue by issue. And you're going to have to bring them back up to the package level. Because you see, if an issue by issue negotiation, it's kind of battle oriented. With a package, you've got multiple ways you can manipulate the issues to craft a proposal that reflects your unique combination of interest. It's much more problem solving. It's much less of a battle. But they're going to try to get you to go issue by issue because they think it's the right thing to do. So you're going to have to keep bringing them back up to the package. So think about using if-then language. If I make this concession, then I get this concession. You're going to yoke those concessions together. Now, one of the challenges with a package is it can be really complex. Let's say you've got a really big issue, really big contract with lots of different issues. It's too much to keep in your head all at once. What you want to do then is you want to chunk it. And some research we've just gotten published suggests that actually there's a couple of very strategic ways to increase the success of how you chunk issues. Number one, probably about 3 to 4 issues at a time is the maximum number we can manage easily. But also, those issues have to be of different forms. You can have some issues that are more like zero sum, like price and that sort of thing. You have other issues that are asymmetrical, things that I care more about, some things that you care more about. I'm going to try to put a diversity of issues within each chunk. Then I'm going to negotiate each chunk. I'm not going to agree to it. We shouldn't agree to it. We're going to put it aside and negotiate all of the chunks and then see how well they fit together. Because if this is a really complex negotiation, this could take 6 months, a year. And so, the world could change a lot. What you negotiated here on the first chunk could be crazy now. You want to make sure they all fit together. Because if you take them off the table and then try to bring them back on the table, that's perceived as extremely adversarial. So just hold it in abeyance. All right, so in summary, develop fluency in negotiation. Understand that on occasion you will find those negotiations which are in fact battles. But for the most part, the negotiations that you could initiate or engage in are going to more likely be effective if you characterize them as collaborative problem solving. You need to leverage the power of expectations to drive your behavior and use the power of expectation strategically to affect the expectations of your counterpart. And justify your offers. Explain to people how you came to the particular offer that you are now proposing as a solution to their problem. And package your proposals. Again, this is probably the most important secret weapon here, is packaging proposals. Getting out of that zero-sum, one at a time, negotiation is battle mentality. All right. Now, if you want to know more, a couple of suggestions. I've got a short annotated, sort of short bibliography here. This is a great book some colleagues of mine have written, Linda Babcock and Sarah Lashivier, 2009, called Ask for It. It's about women, negotiation, and the gender divide. And if you get it, you may want to also get a very large glass of wine to read, because it's very depressing. It's pretty bad. Number 2, I have my colleague, Robert Cialdini, his amazing writer on influence. If you have not read Cialdini's work, you should, and then you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been so influenced by other people in these ways. He's got a great book. And then, oh yeah, there's my new book, Getting More of What You Want. You know, just in case you need Christmas presents, Hanukkah presents, you know, whatever. Also, a couple of things. If you're looking for some video clips and stuff, I've amassed a ton of video clips, blogs, articles at gettingmoreofwhatyouwant.com. That would be mine. And then we've got a couple of online courses, and as Lomo said, I've got 3 executive programs. In fact, one of them, Influence and Negotiation Strategies, is happening in October. It's the next, well, actually Teams is happening, but we're closed out on that one. But negotiation, come and spend a week learning about how to be more effective negotiators. Thank you very much. So we have a few minutes for questions. And so, Lomo, how are we going to handle this? So why don't you come on up and step up to the front. And remember that if you're asking a question, it will be on the video. So keep it clean.
I'm even thinking of this question is because of current politics. However, I don't want you to respond from a political way, or if you want to, you can, but from a conceptual and empirical perspective. What is your critique of the book, The Art of the Deal?
My critique of the book of The Art of the Deal, it is that it is a one-trick pony. And so in that situation, it is really antithetical to how I think about negotiation, because it's more about strategies and tactics that can help you dominate your counterpart as opposed to create value. And at the end of the day, what I really care about, and what my research, even whether it's in teams or negotiation, is about creating synergy, realizing the synergy that you and I can produce together. And those types of negotiations where, you know, I'm going to beat you are negotiations that are most effective when it's a one-time thing, and when you're more powerful than your counterpart. But a lot of us are in social situations where, you know, we're trying to innovate and to create value. And that type of strategy is the antithesis of that.
Professor Neal, thank you so much for everything you've done. You actually influenced me when I was a student, and it's helped me with my negotiations.
Excellent, thank you.
The next step, though, is I've done a lot of reading, and there's a social cost that women bear even if they do negotiate. And there's been talk of making sure that that negotiation is objective, that they can bring in collaboration, but there's still that issue that they will bear a social cost that their male counterparts will not.
Yep.
Can you provide some insight or let us know what we can do maybe as a group so that we can change that structure in the way we think about the way women negotiate, and what we can do as women to negotiate better just with respect to that issue?
Yes, thank you. And I think it's very important. I think that one of the reasons that I now push on this collaborative problem solving is because of the very problem that you raise. You know, trying to negotiate and being perceived as greedy, demanding, or not nice, you know, is oftentimes a characterization of how women experience negotiation. There is a huge backlash. So just to give you a characterization, number one is we don't see any systematic empirical difference between how men and women negotiate. Where we see a huge difference is the initiation of negotiations. Women are much less likely to initiate a negotiation for reasons that you, Jacqueline, you just mentioned, right? We get the backlash. I suggest you to think, how hard is it for people to think that I am greedy, demanding, or not nice when I'm helping you solve your problem? That's why the problem, you see, it's harder. It's harder to think about how to characterize a negotiation. When I interviewed at Stanford, because a lot of people say, well, let's go, I want more money, how could that make you better off? When I interviewed here at Stanford, the way in which I characterized the discussion around the compensation that I got here was, what resources do I need in order to allow my skills and abilities to help facilitate Stanford's goals and missions? I'm focusing on the other. And one of the things that historically we've found empirically that for women is that they are much more effective in negotiating when they pair their ask with a communal concern for the other. And this is the problem-solving perspective. Your second part of your question is actually, I think, a really important one too, and that is, well, what can we as a group do? And one of the things that we can do as a group is that we have to, one of the real challenges is that we see this big distinction between women initiating negotiation and men, between women not initiating negotiating and men initiating negotiation. People don't expect women to. So when they do it, it's seen as weird and out of the norm. When I talk to women's groups, I sort of end each talk with a question. You know, basically, if you don't ask, how will people know what you want? That's the first thing. Because if you just hope that people will read your mind, then you're pretty much going to be disappointed because people suck at mind reading, okay? But number two is, if what you hope for is that if you don't ask, people will like you more. As you move up in organizations, one of the things you will find out is the more you move up in the organizations, the less liked you are, regardless of who you are, right? And if liking is really important for you, I have a suggestion. Get a dog. Seriously, my dogs, I have 3 dogs. I come home, I'm gone 15 minutes, I'm gone 3 days. They're like, oh my God, thank you, we're so happy you're here. We thought you'd left us forever and our lives were bleak and black and dark. My husband, I've been married to him for 35 years. He has never said that to me. Let me just highlight one other thing. Women actually outperform men in representational negotiations. So that suggests 2 things. Number 1, hire women lawyers. Number 2, okay, that was a joke. You were supposed to laugh at that. Number 2, because women outperform men in representational negotiations, because there's no social stigma to negotiating for other people, you need to ask yourself, for whom are you negotiating? Maybe you're negotiating for your family, maybe you're negotiating for your subordinates, maybe you're negotiating for your team or your organization, or maybe you're negotiating for all those women who come after you, who people say won't negotiate. Sure, next. That's a long answer. I have a lot of lectures on that.
Just a quick interruption, just to let you guys know, these will be our last 2 questions.
Okay, good thing you're standing up. Okay.
And so I'd like to remind you that our reception is happening on the main quad immediately following this talk. Feel free to walk, or there will be 2 shuttles looping between the Gunn-Sieper building, the intersection of Lassoon and Sarah, and the main quad. And from 7 to 9:45, shuttles will run from the top of the Oval, the Galvez Lot, and Maples Pavilion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the excellent talk. I have a question around what happens when things go south. You structured all the stuff, it's in your head, and it's going south, and it's getting emotionally charged. You can see the car wreck in slow motion. What recommendations would you have to recover situations and take them on the right path?
So there's a lot of different ways I could answer that. One of the issues is that too often times when we get into a negotiation and it's diverging from a path we expected, we just soldier on and we keep digging. As I tell my students, drop the shovel, right? Take a break, right? Why did it diverge? There's a point where you saw it beginning to diverge. The question is, where did your planning and preparation go wrong? And give yourself permission. Find ways to take breaks so that you can reconnoiter and say, what could I have done differently? Now, what if that's an ongoing negotiation, or once it's a negotiation like with your boss, and you're asking for a raise, and it's kind of going badly? And they say to you, no. Okay? You're not ready. What most people do when they hear that is kind of like go, oh, God, I hate my life. My response is, use it because this is an ongoing negotiation. I understand that you believe that I'm not ready. I'd really like to know specifically what skills, what milestones I need to accomplish in order to make me ready for this next promotion. And I'm really interested in your feedback. Because this is an ongoing negotiation. You got tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So don't keep digging the bad hole. Let it stop. Take a break. Or just say, accept the no and say, but what can I do tomorrow to make me ready for this? Okay? Yes, last question. Yes.
Again, thank you so much for coming to talk. Question is regards to when negotiations have a technical element into it, especially when each side has their own, let's say, own unique solution or mismatching requirements. And of course, in my experience, this turns into an argument, being another engineer arguing with another engineer. Is there another way to rephrase that dialogue?
Well, you obviously have a very specific negotiation in mind. What I would suggest is move up to a higher level where you can agree on a sort of a meta perspective, and then as you move back down, try to see where they begin to diverge. So one of the things I often tell folks in negotiation is that one of the first things you need to do before you even start the negotiation is have a pre-negotiation meeting where you talk about what our meta goal is why are we here at the table, what are we trying to achieve, what's our mission, how would I know what a good deal is for me, how would you know what a good deal is for you? Because I'm going to try to be clarifying my expectations given what I think I've prepared about what you want, and you could possibly be doing the same thing. And then we have this meta goal, we can refer back to it and say, how does this help that?
Okay, great.
All right, thank you. And thank you very much. Thank you.